Well, welcome to another episode of JC Unplugged. And I'm so excited about our next guest. He's an entrepreneur, he's a businessman, he's a life coach, he's a billionaire, he's a sales coach. He does it all. He is Grant Cardone. Welcome to the show, Uncle G. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, great to be here with you. I look forward to this little light mix up of possibility.
You describe yourself. I listed off all those things that you are, but how do you describe yourself to people?
Well, look, I'm a self-made guy that I was raised by a single mom. My dad died when I was 10 years old. I was brought up by basically a single mom and two sisters. So women have been very, very influential in my life, and I've always been trying to grow up to impress them with being able to take care of the people around me like my dad took care of us. And I've been very fortunate because of America and the opportunities here um, to kind of crack a few codes, repeatedly. I have two beautiful kids, a beautiful wife, been married 21 years, and two beautiful daughters that we homeschool, 13 and 15. And, dude, I'm a product of the American dream without selling myself out, by the way. Like the thing I'm probably most proud of, other than my family, is I've done this without the government, without deep connections. I started with no money. I've not sold my soul to institutions or banks. And I feel pretty good about what I've done. We educate people. I'm basically an educator at heart. And now I spend my time going around the world, showing people how to kind of repeat what I've done in my own life.
You have massive success in your own life. And we're going to get into the 10X growth conference that's happening this week, but I kind of want to drop nuggets throughout the way because I feel like you're full of so many nuggets. And I'm going to throw this one at you right out of the gate. And I'm guilty of this myself, but why do so many people, including myself, fail to attain and achieve our goals?
Number one, the funny thing is, I believe it's because of the goal was too small to start with. It wasn't too big. It's either too small or it's way too big. Like some people get ridiculous. Like I want to be a billionaire by the end of the year. I mean, it's got to be achievable, right? But for the most part, most people do not have a dream or goal too big. They have one that's too small and they won't suffer for. So if you take an individual, let's say somebody living in Vegas and they're making 70 or 80,000 a year, and maybe you have a partner. It's like, we got to make more money. We got to do better. And so what does that mean? Do better? Oh, we need to make another 10%. Well, when you go from 70,000 to 77,000 or 80,000 to 88, yeah, I mean, you're going to have some money left over, but nothing changed. And because nothing changed significantly, your house didn't change, your cars didn't change, your lifestyle didn't change, your anxiety didn't change. I mean, like literally, maybe you bought a purse, but nothing changed. And you're still on the treadmill, by the way. Now next year you got to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was already hard enough. So when you try to make little tiny incremental changes, it's very, very difficult to stay committed. So that's what the 10X basically means. If you're at 80, your next target is 800. Now, I know that sounds like, oh my God, dude, I can barely make 80. But the
Yeah.
reality is you would sit down with someone like me or yourself or figure out how would somebody go from 80 to 800? Because now life changes. It changes. I'm not talking about going from one house to another house or one car to another car. It's always everything we do, we convert to a number.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why you convert to a number and not an idea, like a big idea, like, okay, I'm gonna become the best teacher in Las Vegas. Okay, that's good, but and maybe you can pull that up, but you can't measure it. It's hard to measure it along the way, but you can always measure the number. And numbers don't lie. People lie. Feelings lie, by the way, ladies. If you're a lady here watching, your emotions will always deceive you. And 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 so if you can break everything down to a number that you can measure, and then you find the path. Most people find the path before they do the math.
I think there's like two scenarios here because I think, okay, if I'm in sales and I normally do 10 calls a day, we're 10Xing it, I'm doing 100 calls a day and I'm going to see those results. But put it in the aspect of a teacher who wants to be the best teacher in Las Vegas. That is their goal. What's the 10X formula behind that? Be the best teacher in the state of Nevada, be the teacher of
Yeah.
the year award.
Yeah. Well, the problem with that is it's hard to measure, right? So just because you think you're the best teacher doesn't mean the parents think you're the best teacher or the state thinks you're the best teacher. So you're basically becoming effect of what other people think the best is. So I would convert that to a number and say, okay, but what does that mean financially? Well, it means I'm going to make $68,000 a year. Maybe they're going to give me a bonus of 4. Good. So we're going to go to 10x. I need you to show me how a teacher makes 680,000 a year. Because you can't be the best if you help one person. You can only be the best if you repetitively help quantities of people. I'm not dismissing that you helped one person is very important, very, very important. But you should be able to help tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. Because if you could figure out how to scale that, then whether other people call you the best or not, it won't matter because you are the best. Now you're helping 680,000 people a year, not 600 people a year.
Yeah.
And that means you'd have to break your model and maybe leave the classroom and use the internet to educate people. And basically 10X is going to force you out of your neighborhood. It's going to force you out of thinking about being a teacher showing up for a classroom in this example. And it's going to be this year, I will reach this year somewhere in the neighborhood of 160 million people worldwide with education. Am I a better teacher than the person that gets an award for best teacher?
You're reaching more people.
I'm reaching more people. There's no way I'm not a better teacher. I literally help more people with education. Now it might not be your title of best, but I can measure mine, and yours is very difficult to measure.
Something you talk about, switching gears, we're going to go all over the place here because there's so much I've got you. I want to pick your brain. You always say, or I've heard you say before in the past, that it's not a wise investment to purchase a house.
Yes, it's a terrible investment.
Okay,
Buying a
break that
home,
down for us.
I'll break it down. Buying a home is one of the worst investments a human being can make. If you study the wealthiest people on this planet, don't study what they say, study what they do. Their wealth did not come from owning a house. It came from owning a business, shares in a business, or investing in a business. And unfortunately, people have been indoctrinated by the banking system to buy homes, believing a mortgage is better than rent. No, buying a mortgage is rent. That comes with property taxes. It comes with insurance. It comes with a 30-year mortgage. It comes basically as slavery, but the banks did it. The bank said, "Hey, how can we lend more money out? Oh, let's call it rent. Nah, that's not a good name because then they got to do it forever. Okay, we'll call it a mortgage, and we'll do it for 30 years, and we'll tell people that it's ownership. It's not ownership. You still pay property taxes. You have insurance on top of that. In Nevada today, it is cheaper to rent than it is to own. In America, it is 50% cheaper in the top 50 markets to rent than it is to own. Those of you who have been indoctrinated like I was are going to say, yeah, but I own something. No, not really. You don't really own something. You have an obligation to pay many, many things. Like in California, those people in the Palisades that had their houses burned down, they had insurance for $2 million, and it's going to cost $8 million to rebuild the house. They own nothing. And so now, what do you do with the money? If you're not going to put the money in a home, what do you put in it? You invest in yourself, you invest in a business, you invest in stock. Here's a stat for you. 82% of all women, I'm gonna just use one demographic. 82% of all women's equity or cash money is not invested. It's sitting in a bank in a savings account. You can't save money, by the way. Saving money is a phenomenon that that can't happen. It's what's the word for something that can't happen? I'm losing the word. The teachers would know.
Yeah, exactly. They're shouting at the screen right now.
Yeah. So help me, ladies, with what that word is.
The figment of
That
your
can't,
imagination, almost, or
it's just not real. It's again what banks use. Banks say save your money. You can't save money. The inflation, they're printing money faster than you can save it. So even when you save it, if you'd have saved $1 million over the last 4 years, it's only worth $750,000 today. You saved it. It was apparently being saved at a bank. But the truth is, 4 years later, it'll say $1 million is still in your account, but that $1 million only buys $750,000 worth of goods and services. So it's impossible to save money.
So if someone's been saving though, and they've got their 15, $20,000 they want to use with the down payment of a house or whatnot, what should they do with that money then?
You shouldn't buy a house.
Uh-huh.
You should take the 15 or 20,000 and invest in your first thing, three things to invest in. One, in yourself until you're earning more money. You should keep investing in you, in some skill set, something that you do that makes you better. And if you're better, people will pay you more. End of story. You should not invest in things that don't pay you, that don't have the potential to pay you more money in the future, right? If I'm an athlete, I'm going to invest all my money in becoming the best athlete so somebody gives me a big salary. Number two thing, once you're making money because you're good at it and people are paying you, then what you want to invest the overage, anything over and above your basic living, you want to invest in a business you either understand, maybe your own business, or in a business where you trust who's running that business and you're literally an insider. I'm not talking about stocks. I'm talking about inside, maybe you could make one investment in your whole life and get rich beyond ever making 100 different investments in the stock market.
Who do you look up to? Because so many people turn to you for advice and get advice from you, and you have such a great mindset, and you're such a great coach and leader. Who do you turn to for advice?
I study people that have been financially successful for. Look, if you want to feel better, I'm not the guy to talk to. Okay. If you want it soft and easy and you want me to cuddle you and huddle you and hold you and you want to have a state change, there's people that do all that stuff. That's not what I do. I'm literally helping people and businesses and families or companies increase the amount of revenue they bring in. So who do I study? I study financial people that have been successful for long, long periods of time. And typically I don't even meet these people. I just read or watch video or interviews of every single thing they've ever done. I just put warnings or alerts by certain names. Warren Buffett's a guy that I've studied probably for 1,000 hours. And Elon, okay, Elon's never started a company. He buys all his companies. So that's a hack for me. Okay. Elon owns 0 homes. Warren Buffett owns 1 home. All their money's invested. Warren Buffett's pulled a bunch of money out of the stock market right now, $380 billion, because he's waiting for the market to correct. So he's an indicator or guide for me.
Okay. So you look at the greats. You mentioned hacks. You talk about one of the great life hacks that you have is to change the network of people you surround yourself with. How does one go about changing the network and the people that we surround ourselves with? Okay, we see the group of people we're with, and we're kind of right here in our lives. We want to get up here, so we kind of maybe
Yeah.
change our network to people that are up on this next level. How does one go about doing that?
Well, the best way, you asked some great questions, by the way.
Okay,
These are awesome.
thank
Number one is, if you want to change your emotional state permanently, change the people you spend time with. Your emotional state, if you're scared, if you're anxious, if you find yourself, criticizing people, you become negative or you're starting to feel old, it's because of who you spend time with. And emotions for me are always indications. If I'm depressed or anxious or, oh my God, I can't think, I'm cloudy, my thinking. Literally, I can take myself to a room of people that are talking about dumb stuff. And I literally feel like my IQ drops. Put me in a room of people that are thinking big, doing big things, that are inventors, that are dreamers, and all of a sudden it literally feels like my IQ goes up. And so how do you do that? Okay. Well, you go where people are talking about positive things, where people are dreaming. The 10X Growth Conference, we're going to do this conference. There's going to be 7,500 people. Descend on Vegas for 3 days. There'll be 150,000 people tapped in around the world. And they're all coming for one thing. They're not coming for the gambling. They're not coming for the food. They're not coming for the strippers. They're not coming for the casinos.
you.
They're coming for one thing. They want to 10X their lives for themselves, their families, their charities, their expansion. They want to think in a way that they haven't been thinking. And so it's like being at church for an hour,
Hmm.
but just lasts 3 days.
Who can you talk about some of the celebrities? Because in the past, Tom Brady, Snoop Dogg, Usher, Bethany Frankel. I mean, the list of celebrities that you've had appear
Yeah,
with you and speak
I,
on stage. I remember you interviewing John Travolta at one of them. Can you reveal some of the celebrities that will be there this year?
I can't tell. We never tell anybody who's coming. Okay, it's the only business conference, maybe the only conference in the world where we never announce a speaker. And we've had, I mean, you can read the list, right? I've had presidents,
Mm.
ambassadors,
Yeah.
like I had Donald Trump one year.
Yeah.
Okay. And Trump was like, show me the promo, show me the promo. And I said, okay, I'll show it to you. Here it is. And it was a picture of me. And he's like, where's my promo? And I'm like, we didn't promote you. They don't even know you're coming. He's like, why would you do that? You could sell more tickets. You'd make more money, in that voice he's got. Right. And
Yeah.
he was enamored by this idea that when you go to a fight, you know who's going to be there. When you go to a concert, you know who's going to play. Maybe there'll be a surprise guest. And guess what? When people leave, they're like, I went to the Eagles concert at the Sphere and they brought out so and so. It's a freaking value add for the
Mhm.
audience, right? It was extra. And so this year is going to be epic. We have 15 speakers, 10 of them are billionaires that are self made in America. Some from banking, some from the oil industry, some from entertainment. We got a couple of huge entertainers that are coming here that the women love this guy. Um, and there's some people from politics coming in. I can't say too much, dude, because otherwise you'll know who I'm doing. But we got some unbelievable women coming that are literally forging the way for women to represent strength and independence and financial independence as well. Um, and there's a lot of entertainment while we're there, but mostly what you're seeing is example after example after example of people that are self-made.
It's changing that mindset that we're just talking about, changing those people that you surround
Yes.
yourself with,
Yeah.
elevating you to that next level.
Yeah. The fastest way to learn is not by reading. The fastest way to learn is by watching somebody else do something. This is how kids learn. They mimic. Okay. They mimic. If you have kids, you see that they pick up words of songs. You'll be driving around with your kids and I'm like, how do you know the words to this song? And they pick them up so fast. And so this is what we do. We just give people access. What I wanted when I was 10 years old when my dad died was access. I wanted to know the neighbor. I'm like, I need him to be my dad.
Mhm.
And my uncles that were busy with their own families. I'm like, maybe my uncle's going to come help me and show me how to work and become a man. But they never came around because they had their own problems, right? They had their own life. And so I just promised myself if I ever made it in my life that I was gonna give people access to whatever I learned. And no matter how big I got or how successful I was not going to disconnect from regular people, and I was going to continue to give people access.
And that's where the Uncle G moniker comes from because you're
I told that story one time. I said I had three uncles. I kept waiting for my uncles to come help me. I never did. And I said, I promised that one day, if I ever made it, I was going to be an uncle to other people. And then somebody said, you're my Uncle Grant. You're my Uncle G. So that's where that came from. I didn't start that. And it just started people like millions of people now. I'll be out. I was walking through the casino yesterday. Uncle G, what's going on? So, and my audience it's amazing. The audience is so diverse. Democrats, Republicans, independents, male, female, white, brown, black, but they all have one thing they're interested in: economics, finances, doing better for themselves and their families.
I've heard you say that obsession is a good thing. Let's talk about that. Why being obsessed over something? Why is obsession a good thing?
Well, look, all these, it's popular now to label everyone with a disease. I have them all, supposedly. I was labeled ADD, ADHD, bipolar, manic depressant. I was even labeled, I have a success, what is it? A overachievement syndrome. Um, bro, these are gifts. These are gifts. Okay. If you have this idea, if you have an idea and you cannot let it go, it is a gift. It is God yelling at you. If you stay up at night and you're like you got some anxiety and fear are indicators that there's something else you should be doing. Okay, if you didn't have these experiences and these feelings, we wouldn't know what to do every day.
Mhm.
And so I would just suggest to people that all these labels, being obsessed, I am extremely obsessive. Okay, I demand order in my space. I do not want things all over the place. I don't care if it's your home or my home. I don't want it. And I want control of the environment. I want to know there's order in the environment. If you're not going to keep order in your environment, I'm not going to be in your environment. It doesn't make me feel good. And I don't know how you'd make sense of that. I get in an Uber and it's messed up, I don't get in the Uber. Because if you can't clean up your own car, how are you going to get me to the next place safely?
Yeah.
If I don't hang out with people that don't have their finances in order. I don't care if you're family members. If you can't fund your own household and you can't fund yourself and you don't make good decisions or you're a degenerate or you gamble too much, you could be a brother, sister, mom, dad, uncle, aunt, doesn't matter to me. I'm like, I want nothing to do with you because you're a problem and your problems become my problems. You know that saying about whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas? It isn't true. All the bad stuff that can happen to you here, these people come in from Oklahoma and they do something stupid, it's going back with you, and you know it's going back with you.
Your whole story is just is fascinating. I wanna go back to what, 50, 51 years old? When you kind of you almost lost it all, right? And I think
Yeah,
it's such an inspiring story because there's a lot of us, late in our life, and maybe you're 45, 50, 55, 60. You're not sure, like, am I too old to turn things around and make things happen in my life and achieve those goals? I think a lot of people think you gotta be in your 20s and early 30s to do that. You had a pretty much you had it all, but you lost it right when you were 50.
yeah,
Walk me through that process and how did the rebuilding of Grant Cardone happen?
yeah. So it's interesting because it was 2008. I lived in Los Angeles. The economy had collapsed. I had a uh, one industry that basically I was working in, which I highly don't recommend. Never be dependent. No more than about 20% of your income should come from one industry.
Okay.
So the economy collapsed. I was serving this industry. Half of it went away overnight because of the collapse, because of the global reset. It wasn't a housing crisis; it was a debt crisis that became a housing crisis. And I sat down with a piece of paper. I keep legal pads with me everywhere I go. I take a lot of notes. I write all the time, like, okay, what's going on? And I sat down with this legal pad and just wrote at the top of it, what did I do wrong? And I'm like, okay, you didn't participate in the housing crisis. You didn't borrow too much money. And I'm like, get off of what you didn't do. What did you do? I just kept holding myself accountable. What did you do? What did you do? And I kept hearing on TV, might have been your channel, too big to fail. They're too big to fail. They're too big to fail. And then I wrote down, I'm too small. I don't matter. That's where 10X came from. Okay. And I'm like, oh, wow. The people that are big aren't failing. And the people that are small, people in the middle are getting crushed because I did not participate in all the craziness of borrowing back in 2008. I had $50 million worth of debt at the time. The bank called me and said, pay it. I'm like, I can't pay that debt. And nobody could pay anything. If I'd had $500 million worth of debt, they wouldn't have called me. They just said, well, they would have called me, but they'd been like, Mr. Cardone, we want to help you. And so I ran to my wife and I said, the next time this happens, and there'll be a next time, we're going through it right now. I am going to be so big that they call me and offer us help. And that's where the creation of the 10X rule came from. We were servicing one industry at the time. Today we service probably 70 different verticals. It wasn't 10X, it was 70X. We had, at the time, I think I had 200 apartments. We have 15,000 now. I have partners across over 10 companies. I didn't have any then. It was all dependent upon me. We had about 60 customers at the time. Now we have 150,000 in one business. So why am I saying all that, right? I was 52 years old. I knew nothing about social media, nothing about the internet. I just knew if I stayed small and kept like playing under the radar,
Yeah.
that I was always going to be dependent upon insane government policies, bank failures, the stuff that's beyond anybody's control. And so I started figuring out, hey, how do I 10X my business and my customers and my income? And I finally, back to your first question, I had the right target now, the right goals. Bigger goals, successful life is easier to manage than a suffering life. I've done both, and I'm telling you, it's easier to be successful in America than it is to fail.
Was 10X kind of like almost you wrote it for yourself? Did you realize you're
100.
writing
How
this?
do you know all this stuff, man?
But it feels like you write that, right? You're writing it. It's Grant
It
writing
was
to Grant. You just happen to publish it, and it just takes off.
exactly. I wrote basically, how do I 10X me? How could there be 10 of me, not one of me? How could there be 10 verticals of me? How could I have 10 different industries I work in? And look, it was impossible for me at that time. But once you look for something, if you look for a green tie, you'll find one, and you'll probably wear it one day of the year.
This
Okay.
is the only day
But
I wear this thing. We're recording on
yeah,
St. Patrick's Day. This is the only day I wear
exactly.
this tie.
Yeah. So if you guys start looking for 10X, I guarantee to your audience right now, look for 10X. You're going to start seeing it everywhere. Why? Because you're looking for it.
Mhm.
Okay. You're looking for it. If you don't look for it, you're not going to have it. And this is the problem with most middle class American people. They are looking for security, just getting by, pay the bills, get your kids through school. It doesn't really matter what kind of school. You're fairly healthy. I mean, you're not real healthy, but you're fairly healthy. And you maybe you got some retirement money, but the goals are not big. They're just enough not to be poor. And look, I've been poor, I've been in the middle, and I've been on the other side of all this. And I'm telling you, it's better. And nobody talks about it being better. All the rich people say, "Oh, money doesn't make me happy." Yeah, but bro, you got money. I know a lot of people out there that don't have either happiness or money. And I've been where I've been poor and without money. I've lived on the streets. So nobody could talk to me about money doesn't make you happy. I didn't say it did. But if I'm not going to be happy, I want some money to go with it.
Yeah.
Because at least I'm comfortable in the room that I'm in.
Well, I think too, and with the whole with 10x, it can be applied to so many things in your life, with just financial success, but also whether fitness. If fitness is your thing, and having to go all in 2025, this is the year when you get healthy, and you go to the gym for a couple days. And I'm an example of it. Next thing, driving home from the TV station, I'm tired. It's 5:30. I want to make dinner, and you start finding excuses.
Yeah.
When I take the 10x, like, listen, there is no excuse. I have time to go to the gym. I can make the time to go to the gym. I can schedule my day better to get to the gym. I think you can apply it in different areas of your life, not only financially, but physically, even with your relationships too. I want to be a better husband. All of a sudden, I'm finding excuses to not do this, to that. I can 10x it and make sure every day this week I'm writing my wife a love note in the morning before I head out to the office or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. The trick is the hack to this is you would take whatever your goal is. Let's say, hey, I want to be in better health. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. What does that mean? I'm gonna lose 2 pounds. Okay. I would sit down with you and say, let's 10x that. What does 10x in it look like? Well, I would lose 20 pounds. All right, great. Over what period of time? And you're like, over a year. Let's do it over 60 days. Now you're excited. Let's make it 30 days. Okay. I was dropped off. Discovery Channel called me. You probably were going to bring this up. I don't know, maybe not, but they called me before COVID and said, how long would it take you if we drop you off in a city you'd never been in and you couldn't use your name? How long would it take you to build $1 million business? I said, well, how long do I have? And she's like, 90 days. I said, I don't need 90 days. I need 30 to 45 days. And I would never try to build $1 million business. She's like, what are you talking about? I said, I would build a $10 million business, 10X your goal, and I would do it in half the time that you gave me. And she's like, this is the president of Discovery Channel. She's like, are you playing with me? I said, no. I said, drop me off anywhere, take away my name. I don't need any money. I don't need a credit card. And I guarantee you, I know this sounds overconfident to people, like, dude, who could do this?
Uh-huh.
You could do it if you had a system. If you knew you could do it, you could, So, and I also knew that shorter periods of time are easier to accomplish a goal than longer periods of time. 30 or 45 days is easier than 3 or 4 or 5 months because it's harder to hold it together. It's easy to be a great dad or a great husband for 10 days. It's hard to do it for 10 months.
Yeah. Well, let's backstep. Tell everyone
Yeah.
where you went and what was the first thing you did to start
Yeah.
making that money.
Well, they dropped me off in Pueblo, Colorado. I'd never been there before. They shaved my head, took away my name. I was Lewis Curtis, which was my dad's name in reverse.
Was
My
it
dad's
really?
name.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah.
that. Okay.
Yeah. So and then I couldn't use social media, which was problematic for me because I have a big following on social media, about
Yeah.
20 million people. And so I had to, so they dropped me off. It was about 3:15 in the afternoon. I didn't plan this. It's 3:15, Pueblo, Colorado. Uh, and it was cold. It was 16 degrees. I told them, don't send me anywhere cold. So they did. And And I only had 2.5 hours before the sun went down. I had no place to live, no food, no water, and no money except for $100. And they said, "What's the first thing you're going to do?" I said, "We got to go to the bank and I got to drop off the $100." And we had set up a fake account with Wells Fargo. And they're like, why do you need Wells Fargo? I said, because I need a place to drop my money off. And they're like, why do you need that? I said, is this a reality show or are you guys going to produce the show? And she's like, no, it's a reality show. I said, well, then quit asking me questions and just follow me, turn on the cameras and do the thing.
Yeah.
And I went and dropped the $100 off. And they said, why did you drop the $100 off? I said, because I want to get to broke as fast as I can. I want to get to zero. And the important lesson of getting to zero, never have money, never, ever have money sitting around that you're saving or preparing for a rainy day. This is what America does. Okay. They prepare for the rainy day and then they end up having the rainy day. So I went to zero as fast as possible. And they said, what's the second thing you're going to do? I said, I need to go to my phone. They gave me a new phone and I looked up businesses for sale. And they said, why are you looking at businesses for sale? I said, because I'm going to buy a business. And there was an RV business for sale. And I said, let's go over there right now because I knew I could make a connection with somebody that had a business that was for sale and that had a bed because RVs have beds in them. And so the first night I slept in a $17,000 RV rather than sleeping in my truck.
Going back to when it all kind of began for you, I guess we're at a college where, because you talk about investing in yourself. I think it's such a fascinating story. You're out of college, right? You get in car sales, I have this right, and you wanted to invest in yourself, and you had to borrow money from your mom in order to
Yeah.
take a sales seminar. What did you do back?
Yeah. No, yeah. There was one of the old, I hated sales. I was in car sales, hated car sales. It was the only choice I had. I was 25 years old. I just got out of a treatment center for terrible drug addiction that had lasted since I was 16 years old. Probably because I didn't have an uncle
Mhm.
and somebody to guide me, a strong male figure to guide me. Went to a treatment center, came out of the treatment center. The only person that would hire me was a car dealer. He was a friend of my uncle, and my uncle said, go see this car dealer. And I said, I don't want to sell cars. I said, I got a college degree. He's like, son, nobody's hiring you. Take what you can get. And so I went there. I hated sales, hated talking to people. Like doing this was impossible. The dealer gave me this tape and said, listen to this tape. This guy knows how to sell things. And I listened to it. There was an 800 number on it, called it. I said, hey, what do you have anything I can buy to become a great salesman? They sold me a $3,000 set of videos.
Okay.
I didn't have 3,000. I went to my mom. I said, lend me $3,000. Parents do not lend $1,000 to a kid coming out of a treatment center. Okay. I had to do a
Sure,
great sales job.
your car sales training. Sure, son.
Exactly. And I said, Mom, I promise you, man, I'm turning this around, but I got to learn how to do this because I don't know what I'm doing. And I bought that. She lent me the money. I paid her back. I think I paid her back in 10 days. And that was the thing I didn't want to do became literally the path for me becoming the person I could be. And so God put that tape in my hand and said, look, you don't want to be a salesman, but guess what? This is your path right now. You'll become other things later, but for right now, the way to take care of your life, the way to get things on track is to learn how to communicate with people, to build trust with people, to follow up with people, to be able to handle rejection. There's so many great things that people learn in sales. To follow up, to be persistent, to be courageous, to learn how to do public speaking, to make other people comfortable, to not let people down. I'm not talking about being a cheesy salesman. I'm talking about becoming a professional. Because if you've ever met a professional salesperson, not somebody using trickery, somebody that's patient, willing to persist, but willing to do it professionally, those people are, very, very difficult to find and very valuable to society.
Well, I like what you said right there. This is your path right now. I love that,
Yeah,
that little nugget. This is your path
yeah.
right now. What advice do we give to someone? How do you break the cycle? And let's say that cycle is you're bad with finances, or You're not the best when it comes to romance, or the same going back to the fitness, or how do you break that cycle? Because so many of us are in that cycle. We might fix things for, I'm gonna be a better person this year. We fix it for a little bit. We tend to fall back into that cycle. How do you break that cycle?
Yeah. Look, I mean, it all comes down to what Doge is doing right now. You got to first admit you have a problem. Whether you got a drug problem, you got to admit it. You got a relationship problem, you got to admit it. You have a income problem, you got to admit it. And if you're in a job you don't like, you got to admit that you have a job you don't like because you're probably not good at your job. You don't dislike your job because the job is terrible. You dislike it because you're not a master of the job. Because if you're a master, that's when you should not like something. You should not like something. I shouldn't have the privilege to like or dislike something as an amateur. I don't know enough about the field. If you were great at it, you probably wouldn't hate it.
Mhm.
Unless you've run its course, right? But most people have not even started their course, much less run it. If you were Celine Dion and you've already mastered the game and now you're like, I don't want to do that anymore. Unfortunately, most people get stuck in something they don't want to do anymore and never get out and never make a transition. So one, you got to have to admit it. Two, you'd have to say, like, confront what am I not good at and commit to become a master of that. How do I become a master? Let's say I'm doing hair extensions and you're the best hair extension person, but you've maxed out the amount of money. Now, to become a real master, you would have to learn how to scale yourself to become the provider of all hair extensions. And now you become interested and curious again about, like, oh, wow, I could do something big here and go public. I could be the first publicly traded female or male or whatever it is that did something. And now you're not doing hair extensions anymore. Other people are. So it's got to be, you got to commit to being, you got to commit. You got to admit you got a problem, commit to doing something different, learn, get new information, and become obsessed with it.
It goes back to the obsession. You also talk about too, and I think this is great when it comes to your life. You are in control of everything in your life. Anything that happens to you is it your I'm gonna say your fault, or you have control of everything that
Yeah, no, no, yeah. I always say nothing happens to me; it happens because of me.
okay. Expand on that then.
It, Look, and I've had some terrible stuff happen to me. Okay, and I'm like, okay, I'm not blaming it on him; I'm blaming it on me. You could rear end me in a car, and I'm gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna be pissed off that you rear ended me. But at the end of the day, I'm gonna be like, I was in the wrong place, left too early, or didn't leave late enough. But it was me. You hit me. You didn't hit somebody else. I want to claim responsibility. Okay, I want to claim responsibility in the situation, and because I don't want you to have responsibility. Because if you have responsibility, you're in control of my life. So I just always say, hey, it didn't happen to me. Um, it happened because of me. Something I did put me in that situation. If you've ever been in a bad relationship, um, you knew it. Everybody knows it. And now you're like, I knew it. I knew it. Now you blame them for a long time, but you can't fix them. You can only fix you. I'm in a litigation with a partner right now in a business. It's going to be a huge deal. And he's making a lot of noise right now, crying like a victim, crying like a baby. And I told my partner 3 years ago, this guy's going to be a problem. And by the way, I'm in this mess today because I didn't end it 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And so we kept crossing our fingers and hoping he was going to change. He was going to come to his senses. We tried to be reasonable. We tried to negotiate with him. We tried to help him. There's a saying I have. How do you make sense of insanity? You don't. You get rid of it. And in this case, we didn't get rid of the insanity, so now we have to deal with it.
Well, I'm a firm believer in life happens for you, not to you.
Yeah.
If that's the situation, what is coming out of this lawsuit for you? What's the win, or what's the lesson for you coming out of this lawsuit?
Well, I've only been involved in like 3 or 4 lawsuits. I've won them all, crush them every time, and I'm gonna crush this guy this time. So, these things, haters, it's like haters and criticism. They make me great. I mean, I've learned how to convert all negative energy into something positive. I've learned. It took me a long time to learn how to do this. It used to take me months, sometimes half a year to figure out how to convert it. N- Negative people, haters, critical people, criminals. Like this guy's a criminal, straight up criminal. He's a psychopathic criminal. I'm going to convert all that to a success because one, I need to survive it. Two, I need to succeed. Like I don't think people are encouraged to be successful enough. Like success matters. It matters a lot to win in a bad situation. And so, you know, what I mean, I'll probably know in 6 months what I really learned from it, but I know right now what I've already learned, which was I disregarded the signs that told me he was problematic to begin with. And I did not follow my intuition and my knowingness that he was a problem.
Grant, I got about a minute left here in the show. The 10x Growth Conference happening here in Las Vegas, MGM Grand. I think it's such a great investment. I mean, you're gonna change your mindset, gonna change you where you look at life and look at investments. What is your one pleasure or guilty pleasure purchase that you've done over the past year?
Well, the guiltiest thing I have to do is I love taking naps. They don't cost anything, right? But there's no sleep I like more than like 20 minutes, not under the covers. It has to be only with a blanket on top of the bed. If you get underneath, it's not a nap, it's sleeping. So that's something I love to do. I love to take a good nap. It's better than sleep. But something that I purchased in the last year, I bought two Teslas to support Elon. We didn't need them. And then I also bought two of these big military Humvees. Didn't need those either, but
Two extremes right there. Two extremes.
total extremes.
Two extremes. Well, Grant, thank you so much. This was a treat to chat with you, and you dropped some nuggets on us that I think will help a lot of people. So I appreciate it,
Yeah,
buddy.
yeah. And real quick, so anybody can come to this growth conference for free. By the way, we spent $10 million on the event. And we wanted to make it available to the whole world to watch. So you can go to grantcardone.com/free. You can watch all 3 days. You'll see each speaker come out. If you have a telephone or computer or tablet, grantcardone.com/free. You can register there and watch the entire 3 days and take what you like and leave the rest. Sometimes the parts you don't like, though, will help you more than the parts you do like.
That's wild. That's awesome about the free stuff. We'll push that out there too, so everyone knows because it's life
Awesome.
changing stuff. Dude, that's
Thanks,
awesome.
Jason.
Thank you so much for doing this, buddy. We really appreciate it.
You got it, man. Thank you.